Hello everyone and welcome back to another video in our series on making a brick breaker game. This is Mike Page with scriptingisfun.com. In this video we're going to be looking at how to make multiple levels. So we're going to make a new set of bricks for a level, and then we're going to show how we can swap between those levels as we go through the game while maintaining our lives and score and all those things. So currently we have in our scene our first level full of bricks here, and they're inside this empty game object here that's called bricks. And here's all my bricks that are in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually make this whole set of bricks into a prefab. So we're going to just drag this down into my prefabs folder here, my asset panel. That will make this whole thing a prefab. And if you open this up, you'll see all the bricks are still listed inside of there, and everything has turned blue up here in the scene. Let's go ahead and rename this so it's called Bricks Level 1, like that. And then what we can do here is we can actually make another set of bricks as a prefab for level 2. And if when level 1 bricks are all gone, we can actually just instantiate in our level 2 and keep the game going. We don't even have to switch scenes in this case, which is good because when we switch scenes, it destroys all the objects that are in the scene, which would include like our game manager and other things that are keeping track of lives and score. Now the other way you could do this is you could have multiple scenes, and then we could just tell the game manager that it should never destroy itself when new scenes are loaded, and it would also persist. But I think we're going to try it all in one scene here and see how it goes. So we have our brick level 1. I'm just going to delete that now because it's stored down here inside my scene view here, okay, or inside my project panel as a prefab. So that means I'm going to need to create another empty game object here for level 2. So let's just call this bricks level 2, and let's make sure that everything is zeroed out here in the transform. So we'll go to the gear in the corner here and just say reset. That'll make sure everything is zeroed out. So when I drop this in, I can drop it in at the 0, 0 coordinate, and it'll line up where I want it to be. Then we can pick some bricks to use. So I think I'm going to use some of these multi-hit bricks that I just created here, and maybe we'll make a row of those. So let's just drop some in here. Again, we can just now Control D to duplicate, and we can then hold get our move tool here, hold Control down and drag over. Our snap settings should still be set from the last time we did this. If you need to see your snap settings, you go to Edit, Snap Settings. I've got this set to snap 1 unit on the X and a half unit on the Y because these bricks are 1 unit wide by a half unit high. So that works out pretty good. And I can just keep duplicating and dragging. If I want to get all 3 of these, I could duplicate all 3, and then I could just drag 3 clicks, and now I've got that. And then if I want even more, I could duplicate all of these. So you don't have to duplicate them individually. You could duplicate till you go. And it looks like I got a few too many. Unless I want this many, I could just select them all and drag them over a bit so that they're centered on the screen roughly. So these are my multi-hit bricks, which are all set from the last video to take, well, let's make this so that they're set to 2 hits to break, and we'll give them some more points. We'll just change that down here in the prefab. Let's change that back to 2 hits to break. And then when I do that and come out here and check these, they should all have updated. See, 2 hits to break, 2 hits to break. So changing the prefab changes all the instances out on the screen. So here's a row of those. And then let's get a different color brick. So let's go into our sprites. Let's grab one of these yellow bricks and drag it out here into the scene. So there's 2 different ways. We could bring it out here, the sprite out here, and add everything to it, or we could take one of our bricks here, we could duplicate it, we could drag it up here a little ways to get it out of the way, and then we could go here and change its sprite. So instead of purple brick sprite, I could click here and get my yellow brick sprite, and I could select that. And then I have to go in here and change the tint color because this yellow with this purple on it is not the right color. So if we change this down to a yellowish, kind of maybe a bright yellow color, now we have a yellow brick. And then we can just position this down here next to this brick here. So let's see, if this brick is at 0.17, This brick can be, actually let's just even these out so it's easy for us to navigate. So let's put all these bricks at a, let's see if I can get them all. I'm not getting that one in the corner there. There we go. Let's get all these bricks. Let's change their Y to a 2. There we go. And then this guy here, I know I can put it at 2.5 because they're half a unit high, and that will line him up right on top of that other row. Okay? So now that guy is set, and he's -4. So this guy here, yep, they got the same X, so that's good. So now same thing, I can make another row of bricks. Now this brick here has the box collider on it. It's got the tag. It's got everything that we had set. This one though, we don't want to make a multi-hit brick. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change hits to break back to 1. We're not going to need this extra sprite here, so we can just clear that out because this is a one-hit brick. We'll make that worth 1 point, and then we should take this brick that we have selected and make it into its own prefab. So let's drag this one down to our prefabs folder, and then let's change its name here to brick yellow. So that just saves us some work. We're basically duplicating. We want everything this brick has on it, so we just duplicate it, change its sprite, change its color, go in here and adjust the things in the brick script, make it its own prefab down here, and now will be labeled and we'll be able to pick it up out of our scene a little easier. So now I can just start duplicating these. So Control D to duplicate, Control click and pull to get another one, duplicate, pull, and maybe I'll get all 3 of these now, duplicate, 1, 2, 3, pull it over. Let's do it one more time, get all these, duplicate, pull it over, and now I've got 2 rows of bricks in my scene. And then why not, let's make a couple more of these multi-hit bricks here. Let's duplicate this. Let's drag this guy up here to the top somewhere. So let's put a few of these multi-hit ones that take the 2 hits, and let's just kind of pop some of these over here. Just kind of making this up as I go along. Something like that. That doesn't quite space out as nicely, but you know, we can bump these around a bit. Come up with some sort of a level that looks interesting. Maybe we put those 2 apart. We'll do something like that. They look a little off, but that's okay. So there we go. We've got some bricks that we're going to be trying to hit here. So this is my new level. So now what we need to do is make all these bricks go into my bricks level 2 game object here. So let's just select all of these. So we can click the first, shift click the last, drag all those on the bricks level 2. Get this guy up here, drag him down to bricks level 2. Let's make sure I got all my bricks gathered up. It looks like I do. So now those are all contained inside of bricks level 2 here, which I can also make into a prefab. So let's drag this down to my prefabs folder, and now I've got bricks level 1 here. There's bricks level 1 and bricks level 2. Alright, so let's go back and remove bricks level 2 from our scene here. Let's drag bricks level 1 back into here. Make sure it dropped at 0, 0, 0. There's all my bricks from level 1, and everything should be ready to go. So when we play our game manager is keeping track of number of bricks in the scene. So remember, if I hit play, one of the first things game manager does is it goes and counts all my bricks. I've got 22 in this level. When this number hits 0, we are currently ending the game. But instead of ending the game, what we could do is tell it to load the next level. So let's go look at our game manager script here and see how we would tie something like that in. So here's our game manager script. Here's our number of bricks. When the game starts, we're going out and we're finding everything that's tagged as a brick, and we're getting the length of that array that it returns so we can see what our number is. Every time that we break a brick, we're updating the number of bricks. So we take them one away and we're checking to see if it gets to be less than or equal to 0, we're calling game over. Game over is setting that to true, which is freezing everything up, and then it's setting the game over panel to true. So now that we have multiple levels, we don't necessarily want to call game over. We might want to call a function that's going to load a level. So that means that we're going to have to check here if our bricks are 0 to see if we have any more levels to load. So there's a couple of ways we can store our levels. I'm going to store a level in an array. So we're going to use an array to store our level prefabs, and then we can check to see if we've reached the end of the array of levels or not. If we have, then we'll go to game over. If we haven't, we'll go to load the next level. So let's set that up. Up here, we're going to need a public variable. This is going to be, let's just call this a transform. And we want this to be an array, so we have to put these square brackets here to tell the computer that I want an array of transforms, and we'll call this our levels. And actually, let's make that a lowercase l, levels. So these are going to be our levels. So let's save that. Out in Unity then, I want to load my levels into this array. So I'm going to go to my game manager, which has that new variable levels. I'm going to flip that open. Right now I currently have 2 levels, so I'm going to size that to size 2, and that will give me 2 slots here, element 0, element 1. Arrays are indexed lists of things. So we've got, they start with 0 for numbering, so 0 and 1 are my 2 positions on the list. I'm going to grab bricks level 1 from my prefabs here and drop it into level 1. I'm going to grab bricks level 2 here and drop it into level 2. So these are my prefabs that contain all of my bricks. And I'm going to go ahead and drop those out here so that I've got a reference to them through this array called levels. So when the game starts, we're going to just have level 1 already on the screen. But when the level is over, so when we get to here, for a number of bricks is less than or equal to 0, we're going to check to see if we have any more levels. So we're going to need to know what level we're currently on, what level is currently loaded, and then we're going to have to see if there's any more. So before I can write this if statement, let's make a variable up here at the top. This doesn't need to be public, but we'll make it public so we can see it in the inspector. Let's go public int, and we'll call this current level index. Okay, when the game starts, we want to make sure that's equal to 0 so that we know we're on the first level. So when we run out of levels here, if we run out of bricks, when it's less than 0, first thing we're going to do is we're going to check to see if our current level index is equal to the length minus 1 of our array. So let's just check that out. This is going to check to see if we have more levels to load. So let's say if current level index, which would be 0 at the end of the first level, is that greater than or equal to the length of our array. So the array was called levels array dot length will give me how many items are in the array. Now length, if there's 2 levels in our array, length is going to be 2. So if we have level 1 loaded, that's 0. 0 will not be greater than or equal to levels.length. If we have the second one loaded, that's 1. 1 will not be greater than or equal to levels length because the length is always bigger than our index number. So what we're going to need to do here is adjust this, and usually what we would do is just say minus 1 on the length here. So if there's 2 items in the array, it's going to be a length 2 array. So 2 minus 1 would be 1. So that way when we load level 2, which is actually index 1 in our array, 1 would be greater than or equal to 1. And that would tell us that we have no more levels to load. So if this is true, we have no more levels to load. So then we would call game over. So let's just put a set of curly brackets around game over here. So if our current level index is bigger than or equal to the length of our levels array minus 1, game is over. Else, if it's not, then we know we have another level. So then what we're going to do is we're going to increment our current level index. So we would say current level index plus plus to add 1 to it. So it starts at 0, we're going to move it to 1. Then we can use this current level index to actually get the level that we're looking for. Okay, we can get it from our array. So then we would say instantiate, and then we're going to give it our prefab we want to instantiate, which we're going to need a variable we're going to get from our levels. So we're going to say levels. We have to tell it which position or index in our list we want. We're going to feed in current level index. That's going to give me a transform variable that's going to contain all my bricks. Then I have to tell it where to put this. I want this to put this at vector, we can do vector 2.0, which means that it's going to instantiate it at coordinate 0, 0, 0, which is what we want. And then I can give it a rotation. We'll call it quaternion dot identity, which just means a 0 rotation. So I'm going to rotate this at 0, 0, 0 and at all 0 rotations. And what I'm instantiating is out of my levels array, the level at the current index number. The current index number at this case would be 0 plus 1. So this would be 1, and this would then be a 1. And then if we look out here in our array, element 1 is level 2. So if you haven't worked with arrays before, this can be a little bit confusing, but if you think it through, and we'll walk it through a few times in this video, hopefully it'll start to click in for you and it'll start to make sense. So again, when we run out of bricks, we're checking to see, do we have more levels to load? If we don't, then we're going to call game over. If we do, we're going to instantiate the next level in, and then we're going to have it count the bricks in that new level and get things going. So since it looks like we're going to have several lines of code to do right here, we should probably turn this into a function that we can call, just like we're calling game over here. So let's go ahead and insert another function here, and we'll call this load level. All right, and we'll just make the body for that. So let's go ahead and move these two down. So we're going to cut them out of here and paste them into here, and then let's just call load level from here. Okay, so that neatens up our update number of bricks functions, and now we broke this into its own function. So again, we're going to increment our current level index. We're going to instantiate it. We're then going to have to go out and count all of our bricks again. So we would say number of bricks, and we'll use the same command we used before, which is GameObject.find GameObjects with tag. Okay, so GameObject.find GameObjects with tag will return me an array of game objects, and then what I want from that is we got to tell it what tag here. So the tag we want is brick, and then we want the length of that. So we want the length of that array to store it in our number of bricks, and then we should be ready to just continue on with our game. Okay, now the thing that's going to happen here is it's going to immediately jump to the new level, and there won't be any pause time in between levels. So we probably want to freeze some things up for a few minutes, like the game over happens, and maybe give a message to the player that level 2, hey, congratulations, level 1 is done, here's level 2, and then have that pop in. So for now though, let's just do this, just to kind of give us kind of the framework for that. So the first thing we're going to do is, just like in game over, we're going to want to freeze up all of our things. Okay, so we have on the player, or the paddle here, we are going to the game manager, checking to see if game over is true. If it is, we're going to return. Now in this case the game isn't over, the level's over, but we can still use game over to trigger that. We're also doing that on the ball script as well. We are saying if game over is true to return, so that's kind of freezing everything up. So let's go ahead and use that in this case to make everything stop for a moment. Okay, so right here, let's go ahead and use that. We'll say game over equals true, because that'll just cause right now things to freeze up. And then we will call load level, but let's call it in the future. So we can use a command called invoke. And what invoke does is it allows us to call a function in the future. So invoke works like this. You have to give it the name of the function you want to call as a string. So I gave it load level as a string. And then I can put a comma and I can put a float amount of time. So let's wait like maybe 3 seconds for this to happen. So what will happen here now is it'll set game over to true, which will freeze my paddle and my ball and all that kind of stuff. And then it will, in 3 seconds from this point, call load level. Load level will go ahead and do all of this, load the new level in, and set that back to ready to go. And then at the end of this, I just need to change game over to false, which will let the ball and the player and everybody go back to doing what they need to do. So that'll re-enable all those objects, and we should be good to go. So let's test this out. We've typed quite a bit in here and we haven't really tested any of it. So let's see if we have any errors or issues here, and then we'll come back and walk through this again. Okay, so we are going to have to break all these bricks. So I'm probably going to speed up the video here because it may take me a few minutes, and then when we get close to the end of breaking them all, we'll cut back in. So first level loads. This is check. Game manager still got 22 bricks. So here I go. Okay, we're down to 1 brick left. Let's see if I can break this last brick. And there it is. Now everything froze up except the ball kept in motion, but then you notice it did load up my next level. And if I look at my game manager, I've got 29 bricks this time. So there was 22 I think here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So it counted all my bricks. I've got control back. I've kept my lives and score from the last one. And if I start playing here now I've got this whole next level where I've got some bricks that take 2 hits to kill on the bottom row. And let's see here. And then, yeah, it looks like it's working just fine. Let's go ahead and finish this level, and we'll see if the game ends correctly like it should. And there we go. Froze up my paddle. We've got the play again here and the quit. If we hit play again, it reloads me back to level 1 and we're good to go. So that is how you can get it to load multiple levels. Let's walk back through it here again just to make sure everybody understands it. So I'm going to stop play mode here. So first thing we did was we made prefabs out of our levels here. So I just made them in the empty game objects like I did here, and I made them into a prefab so that I can instantiate them. In our game manager code then, we added an array of levels. So these are just transform variables just holding positions of our levels. I made out in Unity, I made that the size of the number of levels I have, and I loaded level 1 into element 0 and level 2 into element 1. And if I had more levels, I could just make the size of this bigger, and I could just add them in the order that I want them to happen, and this code will run an infinite number of levels now the way that it's written. So then in our game manager here, when we update the number of bricks, this is called every time a brick is broken. We take 1 away from our bricks. We check to see if the number of bricks in our level is less than or equal to 0. If it is, we check to see if our current level index, that's the index number of our current level, which for an array, the index number starts at 0. So the first level is actually index 0. Second level is index 1. It's always going to be 1 less than the length of the array. See, the size of this array is 2. two elements and they're numbered 0 and 1, so the end element here is one less than the size. That's why we had to do some of this adjustments here. So if the current level index was bigger or equal to the length of my level array, which is 2 minus 1, so that would be 1. So level 2, which is sitting at index 1, current level index 1, when that has already been loaded, then this will become true and we'll call game over. If it's not, we have more levels to load. We're calling game over to true because that just freezes things up in my game. We're using the invoke command to load the level. So we're calling this function load level in 3 seconds time. That gets called. It makes my current level index 1 bigger, so it goes from 0 to 1. It then goes and loads it instantiates my prefab in the levels array at position 1. The position 1 is element 1 here, which is bricks level 2. So it creates bricks level 2. Then we go count the number of bricks that we have in this new level. We set game over to false so that we get control back over our paddle, and we're good to go. And then it goes through the whole level again till it runs out of bricks. And this time, because I only had 2 levels, it would go to the game over. Sorry, we'll go right here to calling game over, and that would end my game and allow me to play again and quit. So one more thing that would be nice to do is it would be nice to tell the player that they passed the level, and to give them some sort of a screen that pops up in between so that they know what's going on, because right now the bricks pop out but the ball keeps moving, the paddle freezes, but there isn't any indication of what's happening next, and then all of a sudden those bricks just pop up in 3 seconds from breaking the last one. So we could add very easily a little bit of UI here to our game. Right now we already have this game over panel that we're using to say game over and display the buttons. We can make another panel that would just be for just telling him, hey, level 1 is over, loading level 2, or whatnot, whatever you want it to say, so that the player has a little something to look at for a second while it's counting down. You could even put a little countdown in there if you wanted to, counting down when the next level was going to begin. But in this case, since you have control over when you launch the ball, you probably don't need that. But we can make another panel here. As a matter of fact, we could just duplicate this one that we have, and we could just modify it and take things out that we don't want. That way our panels will match size, if that matters to you. So we'll call this load level panel. Okay, and let's turn this on so we can see it. This is a copy of game over. So this text here, we could change the name to this text as I don't know, message text, and we could go over here and change the text here to loading level, maybe we'll say 2, just to see if it fits. I notice it didn't fit in the space that I had here, so let's go take a look at how much space I've got. And if we get my rectangle tool, I can just quickly make sure that this has enough space here and it's still centered on the X. So that's enough space. And if you wanted to go to like as many as 10 different levels, you might want to just test to see if you got enough space in here to do it. And I do. I could go all the way up to a 2-digit level. Yep. So we can just say loading level whatever. We don't need these buttons, so we can just delete these 2 buttons out of here. And we could even then just for now center this text down a little bit here. We could just say something like that, and then we can change the text to say which level we're loading here. That might be a nice touch, and then that would appear when the level is over, and we're good to go. So again, you can customize this as you think it makes sense. Let's go ahead and save our scene here. If I go back down into my game manager now, I'm going to need to have a link to my load level panel, and of course that would be disabled at the beginning of the game. So let's go into game manager, and just like we have a link to our game over panel, we can just add this right in here. Let's do a public. We'll call this a game object again, and this would be our load level panel. Alright, we can save that and go back out in Unity, click on my game manager just like I did the last time I did this. I now have this variable here. Let's grab the load level panel and drop it into here so that we have the link established between the script and this. And then what we could do when it's time to invoke load level, we could just right away turn the panel on, and then it'll sit there for 3 seconds and we can turn it off at the end of load level. So let's just turn that panel on. So load level panel, we can use the set active true, which will make it visible and active. And then down here at the end of load level, when we're ready for the level to start, we can turn it back off. So load level panel, set active, false. Alright, so we got that in there. We also could change so it tells us what level we're loading currently. So after we turn the panel on, we could go to get a link to our message in there. So we could either have our a variable there, or since right now there's only one text element inside my panel, I could just get it through a get component here. So maybe we'll try this. We'll say load level panel. We'll say get component in children. So we'll say go to the children object of this, which that text box is. The one that we want is a text, because that's a text box. And then we could say dot text to get to what's displayed there. And we could set that equal to level and then leave a padded space. And on the end of it we could add our current level index. Now at this point, current level index has not been raised. It would be whatever it was. So in the first level, this would be a 0, so we'd have to add 1 to it to show 1. If this is the next level, we'd actually have to add 2 to it because we haven't incremented it yet. So it'd still be 0. So this would actually be level 2. So if we do a little math here, we could just say plus 2. And we might just want to put this in parentheses so that it knows that this is a math problem. And I think that would do it. So think this through with me. At the end of level 1, which is current level index 0. So at the end of level 1, current level index would be 0. We would go to load it. We would say 0 plus 2 would give me level 2. All right, let's say we had a level 3. Well then, current level index would be 1. At the end of level 2, we add 2, we get 3. So that should always make it so it's showing the right number for the level that we're loading. Let's save this. And let's just test this out real quick and see if that's what we get at the end of the level and how it looks. So again, I'm not going to bore you by having you watch me play this. I'm going to play until there's only one brick left, and then I'll cut back in with the video here and we'll see what happens. Okay, you see that level 2 popped up and it showed level 2, and then it went in and it kept things going. The only thing that was weird is that the ball kept bouncing as I was doing that. So we might want to actually make it so that the ball, we wait long enough for the ball to go off the screen, and we let the ball like pass through the paddle or something so it doesn't do that. But anyway, you see the functionality worked. We got the message, it popped away, the new level popped up. That's where we're going to end this video today. So as always, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I hope you're finding all this useful. Have a great day.